We're putting it on Facebook, Ravi Prabhu. The essential meaning is not a lot different. The object changes, of course, but essentially it's not a lot different. So maybe we can start off by having a little bit of a discussion on what is our understanding of mindfulness. What does it mean? It's a buzzword, it's a terminology, and this now I'm of course talking in the context of Krishna consciousness. What would you think that mindfulness would translate to?
Guruji, being present.
Being present, very good, thank you. Pyali?
Being present without judgment.
Without judgment. Okay.
Being aware of Krishna is there all the time, kind of. That's a mindfulness of ourselves about Krishna all the time, like in our day-to-day life.
Right. Okay, anybody else? Okay, so thank you. Very good points.
If I may say something. So, I think Rupa Goswami mentioned it very clearly. Remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Means always be aware that Krishna is there in each and everything that we do, we see, we experience. So basically, experiencing Krishna's presence everywhere.
Yeah. Also, Prabhu, I did a 8-week course on mindful. It's called Relieving Stress by Mindful Meditation. So that was done by the company. I think they say like you are conscious of each and like activity what you do. Say like even if you are brushing your teeth, you are conscious of that. A lot of things we do in the day to day, unconsciously rather than consciously. So.
Okay, so point to a little bit of not doing things mechanically.
Yeah, and it's to me, Prabhu, mindfulness is synonymous with doing things with singular focus. I think it's kind of expounding on what Laji Prabhu said. Mm-hmm. It's even when you're doing simple things like walking or reading, I mean, so you are focused on just the activity that you are doing at that moment.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you. Jitu Prabhu?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, welcome back Prabhu.
Yes, I am back. For them, it is more like how you are with all those things. So definitely, their spirituality was a major part of that, because if we see their culture and if you get a little bit more deeper into that, definitely they have a lot of spiritualism into that. So I think that is what, I think what other people, or other...
Haribol? Haribol? I think तुम iPad पे करती हो ना तो it logs me off. तुम iPad पे login करती हो ना तो it logs me off. तो अभी मैं करूँगा तो it log you off. So don't try to get back.
cannot hear. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu. I missed part of what you said. You're having some technical problems, but I got the gist of what you were saying. Thank you and welcome back. Padmamanshi, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, I also attended one some mind technique course out of some office curriculum. So they said, set your intention and then focus or give attention to that intention. You set your intention that, say, you have to be aware that everything is Krishna, and then give attention to that intention. Be mindful of that intention, what you have said.
That's a good point, and I think I'll be speaking a little bit more about attention later on. So very good points. I think the general cross-cutting theme of mindfulness is awareness, being present without judgment, being aware, remembering, not doing things mechanically, focusing on, and with attention to intention, right? So fair amount of focus on deliberation. So let's start off with an understanding of what Krishna says when he says that that you be mindful. So I'll read out a verse that Krishna speaks to Arjun in this is in chapter 8. This is verse 7. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhaya cha maya arpita mano buddhir mam eva ashasi asamshaya. Right? So Krishna says to Arjun, therefore Arjun, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. So this verse kind of carries the essence of being mindful of Krishna. So if you look at the Sanskrit of the verse, Krishna says that Maya Arpita Mano Buddhir and Yudhyacha. So Krishna is saying Arjun that while you fight, you be mindful of me. So Arjun might say, but fighting is a very ghora karma, right? In fighting, you are killing, you're constantly concerned about being killed, you're in a battlefield with hostiles. It may sound a little bit like corporate America. Arjun is probably going to, or implicitly he might complain that how can I think of you when I'm doing this activity, which is the opposite of, it's okay for me to think of you in the Brahma Muhurat, when I'm sitting in a hermitage, surrounded by sages, I can think of you. But right now I'm sitting in this middle of this battlefield, right? And you're saying, think of me. So Krishna gives the first clue there, which is, and obviously everything that he tells to Arjun is meant for us. So Krishna gives the first clue. So he says, Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha, right? He does not say Mam Smaranam Yudhyacha. Smaranam means you think of me. Now, Anusmaran means you think of me following the lead of others. So Anu means to follow. So the first instruction or the first clue that Krishna gives is that you don't have to invent ways to think of me. Anusmara. Anusmara means that like others, just like others. Others meaning as the previous acharyas, the gurus, the exalted personalities, right? So that's one clue for us also, that if you want to be mindful of Krishna, then we don't really have to invent ways in terms of doing that. We don't have to like manufacture our own mantra or create our own process of deity worship. Anusmaran, just like other people have done. So then Arjun might say, okay, Anusmar, but the fact still remains that you are saying Sarveshu Kaleshu, that all times, and even if I desire to follow the path of others, then how would this actually, because Arjun is a man of action, right? He's a Kshatriya, he's a warrior. He's not too much inclined to, like Prabhupada would say, that a Muni is the one who agitates the mind. The Muni is one who is able to think of many things at the same time, right? So Arjun is not of that mentality, man of action. So Krishna says that Arpita Manaha Buddhi Ma. Right? So by surrendering your mind and your intellect. Right? So we get 3 clues over here, that Anusmara, that we follow the path of the Vedas, the Acharyas, with our mind and intellect. Now, let's break this down a little bit further from a practical perspective. That what is the opposite of being mindful of Krishna? And so we say that we want to be mindful of Krishna. What is the opposite of being mindful of Krishna? Now, any one person want to share? What does it mean to be not mindful of Krishna?
Neglectful of Krishna.
Hmm?
Neglectful of Krishna.
Okay. You want to expand on that a little bit?
Sure, Prabhuji. It's like mindful means always thinking about Krishna at least in the back of our mind. Even if we are working, like you're saying Iddecha Krutanischaya, even though he is doing war, still he is knowing well for whose purpose he is doing. So that is his mindfulness of Krishna. And because at every point he has a choice to make, like he know, but still he can choose whether to do it for Krishna or not for Krishna. So do it for Krishna if it is mindfulness, then making a choice of not doing it for Krishna is his neglectfulness of Krishna. That is the choice.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very good point.
Prabhu, it's Shivani.
Haribol Shivani.
Haribol Prabhu. So, on the same line, it could be also ego. Because when you are not mindful of Krishna, when you know his position and you are still not mindful of Krishna, then your ego takes over.
Okay.
So one more point, Prabhu. When you're not mindful of Krishna, basically you're mindful of material things like Maya, like say family, children's, job. So you are mindful of other than the Krishna thing.
Okay. That's a very good point, and we are going to use that point to help us be mindful of Krishna. Because it's not that we don't have experience of being mindful. We have lots of experience being mindful, but of other things. So it's like somebody says that I know how to drive a cycle, so he knows the art of balancing. It's much easier for him to switch from a cycle to some other model of cycle or bicycle, right? So that's a good point we will use later on. Coming back to the original question that Shivani and Ravi Prabhu answered very nicely. So once again, taking the example of Arjun. So when Arjun is being mindful of Krishna, essentially he's being mindful of the instructions of Krishna. Right? So being mindful of Krishna does not necessarily mean that Krishna is always present in our mind and heart. Maybe in some exalted stage it will appear by itself. We can't force it. But from a practical perspective, mindfulness means that you're aware of the instructions. It's like Shipadma Manjri mentioned that attention to intention. So if the intention is to act according to the instructions of Krishna, then that automatically translates to mindfulness. It not necessarily that one is constantly chanting or one is constantly reciting verses or one is constantly giving obeisances. Not to deprecate those things, they are angas of bhakti. But from a practical perspective, mindfulness means being aware of the desires of Krishna. So for Arjun, mindfulness of Krishna meant that he fights. That was Krishna's instruction. Further mindfulness would mean that he fights with detachment. That was further instruction of Krishna. Further mindfulness would mean that he fights as an offering to Krishna. But in all cases, different degrees of mindfulness. But the distinction is not that Arjun was 25% time thinking about Krishna, that is little bit of mindfulness, 50% more mindfulness. No. The degree is to what extent was he able to surrender to the instructions of Krishna. Right? So we've established that mindfulness means understanding and following the instructions of Krishna. Let's try and translate this to our day-to-day perspective, right? What do? We get up in the morning, get ready, go to work, or take care of the family, get back from work, commute, cook. That's most of how we spend our day. Given this understanding of what mindfulness means, how does it translate in from a practical perspective? Let's assume that the new year is around the corner. We try to make this resolve that we'll be more mindful of Krishna. How will it actually translate?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, to Shivani. So to me, being mindful of Krishna just translates to understanding his position and understanding our position in respect to him.
And how will we understand that? What's the process of understanding that?
Again, with through scriptures, through through Guru, they are the ones that are going to show us the path and But when we are already talking about Krishna, that means we are already in that path. Because it's not that everybody in the world is talking about Krishna. So it has to be taken for that position, like you are already in that like ashray line, or like you're seeking answers. So when you are already in that position, then for me, it could be different for other people. For me, the basic thing is to understand his position and my position in respect to him.
Thank you, Shivani. Piali, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did, Prabhu. To me, I think being mindfulness of Krishna, like you translated it beautifully, it doesn't mean that you're thinking about Krishna all the time. You might be cognizant of the instructions of Krishna, and to be able to go to the instructions of Krishna and to be able to assimilate it and follow it, reading the instructions through the reading of scriptures or hearing the instructions from any bona fide guru or shiksha gurus or other gurus, that is probably another way to become more mindful. The repetitive nature of listening and assimilating Krishna's instructions until it becomes a part of your I shouldn't say daily routine maybe, but it becomes a part ingrained in you. Let's put it as ingrained in you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Sachi Jeevan Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, Amrita Lila here. Prabhuji, before answering, what the translations of mindfulness, I would like to just, this is my thought, like the opposite of being mindful of Krishna, I was thinking maybe ignorance. If someone does not understand the position of Krishna or who he is and what is our relationship, then he definitely cannot be mindful and he is in ignorance. Coming to translations, that just I am trying to relate from there, that of course being mindful means understanding Krishna's position, convinced like what is our position's relations and what we should do in our this life. So that is the mindfulness, and being in that mood every time, like I'm the maybe soul, and I have a connection with super soul, and I have to understand that, and maybe the highest purpose of this life. So all those mix, or maybe the end result going back to Godhead is the mindfulness.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Amrita. Very good.
Just one more point. For me, being mindful is to be grateful that we are, that we have got Guru and Vaishnava association. So that, and being grateful that we are fortunate to be, that we can serve like a God, Krishna by his name, or deity worship in a different way, along with other devotees. So mindfulness for me is to be grateful for those opportunities.
Very nice. So if I were to try and summarize these wonderful points, the origin of mindfulness is being aware. How would you be? And it kind of makes common sense. Like, how can you be mindful of something that you don't know about? There's a person living in your neighborhood, you don't even know the person exists. How can you be mindful of the person? So the first step in mindfulness is getting to know Krishna. And Shivani was talking in terms of, I think more technically, Sambandh Gyan, knowing Krishna, knowing yourself, knowing how your relationship is. And Chakshu Shastra, that by Pyali was making the point that by reading the scriptures or by listening, by discussions, by listening to those who have also introspected on this, one gets more and more awareness of who Krishna is. Srila Prabhupada would make this comment that knowing Krishna is loving Krishna. Similar mood that once you know how great Krishna is, how wonderful Krishna is, then you cannot help yourself but to love him. So through the systematic study of scriptures, that process is so potent that it acts upon us even without us being fully aware of it. Right? We read the Bhagavad Gita, have discussions on it, read the Bhagavatam. Many times the discussions are tangential, circumstantial, but the fact that there is a certain amount of absorption into Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's instructions, the purports of the acharyas, it's acting from within. We are developing this understanding of who is Krishna. Many times, I know before I came to Krishna consciousness, coming from India, of course, everybody knows about Krishna. But I did not have a complete understanding of really what his position is. And frankly speaking, I didn't think about it too much also. Yes, there is Krishna, and there is Lord Shiv, and there is Lord Ganesh, and there is Durga Devi, and they're all somehow over there, stuff there. So with that kind of nebulousness, and I'm sure you must have all gone through the same stage, that from that stage to the point when there was more understanding from the scriptural perspective, then just the awareness of Krishna grew. Right? So step one we have established is by the study of the scriptures or discussion of the scriptures. It helps us understand who Krishna is and be mindful. Now, step two is how to take this awareness into our day-to-day life. Because we established that mindfulness is acting according to the instructions of Krishna. So we have understood, or we have to some extent understood the position of Krishna. The next step is understanding the instructions of Krishna. And so like a word of sharing over here, that in the grand scheme of things, it is relatively easy to understand the position of Krishna. It's relatively difficult to act according to the instructions of Krishna. Right? So if you look at the scriptures, 10% of the scriptures, and these I'm talking about Vaishnava scriptures, maybe 10% of the scriptures go into giving us an understanding of the position of Krishna. The bulk of the scriptures are into how to act according to his instructions. So let's talk about that a little bit. That fine, let's assume that we are all practicing devotees and we have received the mercy of Prabhupada, Mahaprabhu. So we have a place for Krishna in our hearts, some understanding of who he is. We have our daily lives, which is a bunch of all kinds of activities. From a practical perspective, how do we translate the the instructions of Krishna into our day-to-day activities. Right? Because that's what we said, that is mindfulness. Mindfulness is not just thinking of sitting of Krishna, but acting in a way that will please him, which essentially means that acting according to his instructions. What would be a practical way to do it? And maybe if you can take an example to illustrate, that would be more helpful to the group. Yeah, Pyali, please go ahead.
Very well, Prabhu. I think offering bhoga, right? And then you immediately translate it to Krishna's instructions. Like, if anything, any simple thing is offered to me, even like a leaf or water, with devotion and love, I accept it. So, when we offer bhoga, we know that, we have not generated anything to prepare the bhoga. It was kind of something available to us. And we picked that and we made the bhoga. And when we offer it to Krishna, that is one practical example of using his instructions and putting it as a part of our routine. I think that comes to my mind first.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Very relevant.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Shrivani. So, Yali just gave a Krishna's instruction. I'll give a Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction, where he asks us to take up chanting, because that's all we can do in Kali Yuga. So Harinam Sankirtan, Kirtan in any form, be it singing, be what you are doing right now, spreading the name of Krishna. So yeah.
Fantastic. That is also very good. What else?
Okay. I think for me, acting according to one's adhikar, and for us, it would be like sadhana vaidhi bhakti. That is actually the mindfulness translates into action in our lives, and like P.R.A. Mataji is giving the perfect example is offering bhoga, and the another example that I can think of is 10th chapter Bhagavad Gita, where even in different material like sunlight, taste of water, all those things are the constant reminders of Krishna. That's also an example where we can be constantly mindful in wherever circumstances we are in.
Okay, very relevant. Thank you. Anybody else? Any thoughts? So let's take like an example that you get up in the morning, you go to work, you spend 8 hours at work. How will you be mindful of Krishna?
I think.
Chance, Prabhuji. Sorry, Mataji, go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Prabhu. Ravi Prabhu, you go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So it's Krishna's instructions, Prabhuji. Like even in the work atmosphere is always complex. There are different ways we can remember. Like if a circumstance come, we can think of matras varshastu kaunteya. That kind of acceptance of the circumstance itself is also a remembrance of Krishna. Otherwise, probably we wouldn't take that way. If it is a positive circumstance, we can be grateful of Krishna that He's bestowing His mercy. Like that.
So kind of you're saying in adversities, when things are not going the way you
either
want.
way, good or bad, either way.
Bad.
If bad it is, we can remember matras parshastu kaunteya, something like that. If it is good, we can remember, by Krishna's mercy I am getting whatever appreciation that I am getting here, or like that. That's more of a devotional mood that we learn through acharyas.
Okay.
see.
Okay, I got you. Very good. Okay. Okay, Pyali, you want to take a crack at it?
Yes, Prabhu. I was going to say, I think, when you're at your workplace, you definitely take a break for lunch and you eat prasadam, right? So that's when you get mindful of Krishna. And I was thinking I'm going around the same topic of prasadam. And the other thing is, like, definitely at a workplace, the things or even people's words may not go as you wish it to go. Like, there are good moments and bad moments. So the being able to, and of course they definitely can hurt you or make you happy, but being able to think, like, with detachment is also Krishna's instruction to be detached to these things. So being able to at least think about that. I do not know how much you can practice it, or it will come eventually, but that is another way of thinking of Krishna when you're in the workplace.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. So yes, I think Ravi Prabhu made the point, and you kind of encapsulated it in a word. One of the things that is characteristic of, I'm using workplace as an example because it is more concentrated there, but life in general is the ghantaral, is the fact that sometimes things are good, sometimes bad. Sometimes you feel elated, sometimes you feel that you're being victimized. If you're able to follow detachment, then where are we getting that instruction to be detached? That instruction is coming from Krishna. That is the essence of mindfulness, to follow the instruction of Krishna. So many times when people say, how do you be mindful of Krishna at a workplace? The easy answer is you have a picture of Krishna, you have a screensaver of Krishna, or maybe you have a small box that's chanting Hare Krishna. All valid. They help. However, at a deeper existential level, that how do you become truly mindful? Those are reminders. How do you become truly mindful of Krishna? Is by adopting his instructions in your life. So, when Krishna is asking Arjun to fight, right now, Arjun of course had the advantage that Krishna was sitting right in front of him, but Arjun was busy fighting. He was giving his 200% in the fighting. No time for him to hear the chanting or kirtan. No time for him, Pyari, to eat prasadam. He was 100% focused in fighting, and he was 100% mindful of Krishna, because he was doing what Krishna wanted him to do, is to act with detachment. So I want to read one verse from Bhagavatam here that's relevant. It's in first canto, second chapter, verse 13. Ata pumbir dvija sreshta varnashram vibhagashaha swa anustitasya dharmasya samsiddhi hari toshana. Right? So I'll read the translation and then. So it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve is by discharging the duties prescribed of one's own occupation to please the personality of Godhead. Okay. So, swa anu stitasya. Right, you again see the word anu over here. So, stitasya means to be situated. In what? Dharmasya. In your duty. Swa, in your own duty. Anu means as has been given to you, as has been explained to you. And what is the result of that? Samsiddhir haritoshana. Samsiddhir means it is the highest perfection. And haritoshana means of satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, if you are able to imbibe these instructions in a day-to-day life, of and Krishna is quite open about his instructions, right? He said, at least when he talks about the ladder, he said that you at least act with detachment, right? He finally says you do it as an offering to me, but at least you do it with detachment. So anytime, like when we face an adversity, and then we say and we don't react to it, right? So then what is our consciousness? The reason we are not reacting to it is because that is what Krishna wants us to do. We are automatically mindful of Krishna. Anytime we have the opportunity to do something that is contrary to dharmasya, then we say, okay, we don't do it because that would not please Krishna. Whether it is at work, whether it is at home, whether we are alone or with others, right? So understanding the position of Krishna, understanding his instructions, and then acting according to that instructions is the essence of being mindful. And wanted to take maybe 5 minutes to talk about the obstacles in this, right? So we kind of, let's assume we kind of get it, we want to do it. What do you think would be the obstacles in doing it on a consistent basis?
Our own mind, ourselves. We are the biggest enemy.
Okay. Very good point. What else?
Prabhuji,
Haribol, Prabhu. Ego, wantings, materialistic wantings, and all that other distractions. Ego, I think, is the biggest one, considering that if the instruction is to work very hard, do your best. I'm not saying do your best and not look for the results. Ego will come in that way and say, I want the results, and then you are losing the instruction there. I would say ego. Kind of mind, I guess, ego and mind would be very similar. I think the wantings, most probably, desires.
Okay, so we have mind, we have ego, we have senses. So the only thing that remains is intelligence. Let's cover that also, right? So we have mind, intelligence, ego, and senses. Arjun had a similar objection, right? In the 6th chapter, he says, Chanchalami mana Krishna pramati balavad jadam, that the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very, very strong, right? So, absolutely right. Mind is the problem. That whether it is acting on the pushings of the ego, or whether the mind has a mind of its own, there is some part of us saying that, let's not be too worried about it. Let's try and do what Krishna asks us to do. Let's be detached from it. And then there is some part of us that does not act upon it. Why? Because Chanchalami mana Krishna pramati balavadratam, right? He says that it is, Arjuna says balavad, very, very strong. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, right? So he's used to comparing things from the perspective of strength. Balavat is strong, and then Dridam, that it is obstinate. So Nikram, subduing it, is Su Dushkaram. Right? So when the word Su is added, it magnifies in effect. Right? Dushkaram means difficult, Su Dushkaram means that impossible, almost almost impossible. So our minds are obstacle in being mindful of Krishna. And Krishna gives us the solution also to that. Krishna gives Arjuna the solution to his problem. Krishna gives us also the solution. So what is the solution to the problem? Right? So the solution that Krishna gives is abhyasena tu kaunteha vairagyena chagrahate. He said, fine, I agree with you. Mind is dridam, chanchalam, is sudushkaram. I have a solution for you. Abhyasena tu kaunteya and vairagyena cha grahate. So by regular practice, by deliberation, we can conquer the obstacles. So Pyani made the point of prasadam. That's a classic example. That maybe in the 8 hours that we are at work, maybe our mind is chanchalam. But we have to sit and eat. If we eat prasadam, then we are automatically mindful of Krishna. Maybe out of the 100 events that we run across in the day, at 10 events, we are able to display our submission to Krishna's instructions, that is abhyasena. Right? So this is not one of those all or nothing. Right? It's not that you need to be mindful of Krishna 24/7 from day one, or else there's no hope for you. This is us doing it, and being a little better at it every day, every week, every month, every year. There are two things in this. One thing is that to be persistent in doing it. Maybe there might be days that will go when circumstantially we find ourselves, we are unaware of Krishna. Still, there's no harm of picking ourselves up and say, okay, from tomorrow I'm going to be more mindful of Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada made this point that by the study of the scriptures, the mind becomes stronger. By the association of devotees, the heart becomes stronger. So the mind, with the scriptures can tell you what to do, and Vaishnav Sangha will show you how to do it. So when these two things go hand in hand, we have an understanding of the need to be mindful, that mindfulness depends on understanding the position of Krishna. The practical implementation of mindfulness is following the instructions of Krishna. The obstacles to mindfulness is the mind or absorption in material things. The way to get around it is by patiently practicing, and the patience and the determination comes out of associating with like-minded people who are also doing the same thing. Who can also tell you, okay, this is what's happening to me, and this is how I'm facing this, or this is how I'm thinking, right? So the whole Guhyam Akhyati Prachati, the whole sharing in confidence or sharing through study of scriptures, kind of that closes the loop. So I'm going to stop over here and see if any one of you would like to share any personal realizations or any comments on what we have discussed so far.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. One question, Prabhuji. Because you literally in the end you brought the topic of practical implementation in our lives. Especially one challenge that I see is like doing it independent of whether we like it or not, kind of. Those things we like is easier to do. If those things which we don't like, they look very boring and tiresome to do it on a consistent, regular basis. Momentary detachments are easier. Once something is happened, good or bad, detaching ourselves and moving forward is an easier thing. But detaching ourselves from our own desires and consistently working on it, like Krishna is saying, abhyasa, that seems very difficult. That may be it work, I don't carry a lot of passion. So it appears like constantly applying your brain on something to analyze looks a very boring task and feel like somehow finish it off and move it. Neither I know that we are not giving our best, nor as a devotees we wanted to excel in everything that we do. That is kind of inspiration for other people too. Theoretically I may know that, but practically when it comes to implementing it, that constant abhyasa looks like hell. So how would we, because I try to remember sometimes like the Paramdrishtva Nivartate verse in Bhagavad Gita, try to make it more fun way, be it helping others rather than taking like a responsibility or my job kind of, or try to take the tasks which I would enjoy, but still long term, it was not a great jump for me. It's a struggle always. So if you could help me on the constant working on things.
So there are two things that come to my mind, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing. So one is what is called as the rock, pebble, sand approach, right? The rock, so if you have a container of fixed capacity, you want to fill it up, you fill it up with sand, that's it. You finish it with pebble, you can put a little bit of sand, but you fill it up with rock, you can put the pebbles, you can put the sand, and same container. Essentially what differs is your skill, your ordering. So like you said, that there are things that attract our mind, there are things that don't. Right? And the beauty of Krishna consciousness is that it has something for everybody. So we pick the rocks first. Right? We can't be in the Nectar of Devotion. This point is made about advancement of devotees. It's a little humorous also, but devotees who are of a little less advancement, they will appreciate a kirtan if it is melodiously sung. If it is not melodiously sung, they will not appreciate it, right? But devotees who are more advanced, they will appreciate it equally. Even if the person is completely off tune, they will still appreciate it, right? Now, so what do? We are not at the level where maybe we have equal attraction to off-key kirtan, right? So at least listen to melodious kirtan. So pick the things that work for you. Pick the rocks in in your life. What are the rocks? The rocks are, one is the non-negotiable things, right? Pick those. Pick the rocks that are suited according to your propensity, right? And fill your day, and then start filling the gaps with the other things that that will grow. The second point I wanted to make was something that Indulekha shared with me some time ago, was basically, how does this thing grow? Right? So it's essentially the 5 A's. That to which you give your attention, you will develop attraction. And that to which you have attraction, you will develop affection. And that to which you have affection, you will have attachment. And that to which you have attachment, you will finally have absorption. There's the five A's. So our goal is absorption. Right? That's Bhava Bhakti, correct? The characteristic of Bhava Bhakti is that the mind naturally goes to Krishna without any effort. That is absorption. But the encouraging part is, it starts from attention. Right? So if you're just able to give our attention, and even in the attention, we can just give attention to that which we have a natural propensity to be attentive to, something that we actually like anyway. And that attention will become attraction and affection and attachment and finally absorption.
Attention, attraction.
Attention, attraction, then affection, attachment, and absorption.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Pyali?
Thank you so much.
Pyali, you're on mute.
To answer a little bit on Ravi Prabhu's commentary, how to make it a habit. I think the analogy of exercise buddy comes to mind. Like, if you're doing something and you're doing it with company, then you kind of buoy each other up to sustain or make that habit. So just wanted to point out that, Sangha is kind of an important component if you're trying to develop habits, in my opinion, in my honest opinion.
And I know of people who like exercising to some people is enjoyable, some people is not. But I know, like when Dhruva was in Ranok, he was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym. And I was shocked. I said, you're over here, you sleep till 10 o'clock. How come you're getting up at 5 o'clock? And essentially, we had a gym buddy. And they would keep each other inspired. If he was feeling lazy, then the other person would work, say, come on, let's go, man. And, that it would work out. So yeah. So Sangha, the people who are equally enthusiastic, committed, compassionate, they're there to help you in this journey. And coming back to the aspect of the importance of Sangha in mindfulness, we may not always be fortunate enough to have Vaishnav Sangha at work or at other times also, but we can nevertheless take the Sangha with us, in the sense that we can use the opportunities that we have to associate with Vaishnavas and take that with us. We take that with us in the sense we take with us our realizations during that association, conversations, any advice, recommendations. So the same concept, like we say that being Mindful of Krishna means following his instructions. Same concept, that when we are associating with our Guru Maharaj, when we follow his instructions, then we are carrying our Guru Maharaj along with us. He may not be with us at work, but just by fact that we are following his instructions, we are carrying him with us. That Sangha is it's not there in Vapu, but it's there in Vani. So thank you. So that's a very practical point. Yes, Adi Govind Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, and all the devotees for their inputs. Prabhuji, I'm speaking based on my experience. Being mindful is definitely, should be very grateful that I'm able to get mercy of devotees, and so that I can experience Krishna to whatever extent I have experienced. But I also feel like striking a fine balance between whenever we get that spiritual enthusiasm and we try to devote everything to carry on with that devotional experience. Sometimes I feel that I get carried away with a lot of spirituality and kind of being fanatical about it also. I'm being completely honest. And then I become less mindful of my conditionings. So how do we strike a balance between trying to carry on, keep pushing ourselves, because it's what is it called, a slippery slope or uphill battle, right? Or uphill climb with Krishna consciousness, but also trying to be mindful that yes, I have these conditionings and I have to pay attention to those too. Just for an example, as long as it is not grossly sinful. Like sometimes I like to watch movies which have no Krishna, especially these days movies, they have nothing. Forget about goodness. It's all about ignorance, violence, and whatever it is. But how do we strike a balance between those two aspects?
Okay, so my guess is you probably asked a two-part question. One is that you say that you may get carried away, fanatical, in terms of following the do's. So you're doing something that you think should help you, and you get too much carried away with it. And the second is watching a movie, which definitely is not a do, but a don't, which is, what do you do to curtail the don't. Perhaps the general understanding is that that which does not come from within needs to come from without. So if you are not able to it's completely normal, because it's very difficult to be objective about one's own self. So if you are not able to be able to control from within, it is important to have a safety net that controls it from without. So how does the control from outside come? It comes from having an open, healthy relationship with other Vaishnavas, that you can say that, hey, for the last 30 days, I've been getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning and taking cold water shower so that I can chant. And Prabhu, another person might say, Prabhu, it's okay, you don't have to do that. You'll fall sick, So it comes from without, but is predicated on the fact that you have one or more such relationships with Guru Maharaj, with your spouse, with other devotees. Doing the don'ts has two aspects to it. The notion of adhikar is very important. in terms of what you don't do and to what extent you don't do it. Right? So the don'ts are typically come in the category of material enjoyment, right? And as long as they're not, as you mentioned, grossly sinful, they're in the category of material enjoyment. Do you have the adhikar to completely divest yourself of all of them? Right? Are you strongly enough situated in your spiritual enjoyment that you can forego all semblances of material enjoyment? Then do it. If not, then make it a process. You like seeing a movie, see one a week. Or you were seeing one a week, see one a month. Right? And you kind of wean yourself out of it. Pick the battles that you have a better chance of winning, right? You go cold turkey, you say from tomorrow onwards, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. Make a list of 10 things that you think are, and everybody has that list, right? That you think are in the area of what do they call them? There's a term for them, but they're in that list. And it's okay, I'm not going to do anything like that. It'll be difficult to sustain yourself, even in your spirituality. Right? Even in your spirituality, it'll be difficult to sustain. So the idea is that you wean yourself off there. That as your attraction to Krishna grows, to the processes that are there in Krishna consciousness goes, your attraction over there will diminish, and then you leverage that change, right? If it diminishes by 10%, you go 15%, and then you work off it. The point that I make off here is that we should always see ourselves as marathon runners, never as sprinters, because we are in Krishna consciousness for we want to be in Krishna consciousness for a long time, right? We don't want to be the star devotee of the day for 2 weeks and then just loop after that, right? That's not our program.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you for the wonderful questions. Okay, so we'll stop here. Thank you so much for all your contributions and for sharing your realizations. We'll have Narsingadev prayer now. I'm not sure who's singing. Who contributes?
I'm singing, Prabhuji.
Okay, Hare Krishna, Seema.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Okay, all yours.
Thank you.